Disclaimer: this journal reflects my personal trading activity and operator reflections. Episode 5, The Next Decade: Why Digital Infrastructure Matters. The next decade of investing may not be about predicting the next winning company. It may be about understanding the infrastructure that powers the future economy. Because right now, a new layer of infrastructure is being built. Not with steel or concrete, but with semiconductors, cloud networks, financial platforms, and digital systems. From physical infrastructure to digital infrastructure. For most of modern history, economic growth was built on physical infrastructure. Railroads moved goods across continents. Highways connected cities and industries. Electric grids powered factories and homes. These systems became the backbone of economic expansion. Today, a similar shift is happening again, but instead of steel, rails, and highways, the new infrastructure is digital. Data centers, cloud platforms, semiconductor compute power, financial platforms, digital asset networks. These are the rails of the modern economy. And once you start looking at the world through this lens, many of today's most important companies start to make sense. Semiconductor companies are not just chip makers. They are the engines that power artificial intelligence and large-scale computing. Cloud companies are not just software providers. They are the operating systems of the digital enterprise. Financial platforms are not just brokerage apps. They are becoming the user interface for how individuals interact with money. And digital assets themselves represent an entirely new category, programmable value that moves across networks rather than through traditional banking rails. Why this matters for investors: technological transitions rarely happen overnight. The internet did not replace the global economy in a single year. It took decades for infrastructure, business models, and regulation to adapt. The same process may be unfolding with digital infrastructure. Artificial intelligence is expanding the demand for computing power. Cloud platforms are becoming the backbone of enterprise operations. Financial services are moving toward mobile and digital platforms. Digital assets are experimenting with new forms of settlement and value transfer. These systems are developing alongside the traditional economy, not necessarily replacing it overnight, but over time the infrastructure becomes harder and harder to ignore. My personal investment perspective. As a trader and capital operator, my approach has always been based on structure. I don't try to predict every short-term market movement. Instead, I focus on understanding the systems that drive long-term economic change. That is why much of my portfolio naturally gravitates toward digital infrastructure companies, semiconductors that power AI, enterprise systems that run modern businesses, financial platforms that connect individuals to markets. These companies sit at the intersection of technology and economic infrastructure. They are not just products. They are platforms that entire industries depend on. And when infrastructure expands, entire ecosystems grow around it. Digital assets as a new layer. During this study, I also explored digital assets and the infrastructure around them. What I discovered is that the conversation is often framed incorrectly. Most people immediately jump to the question, should I buy Bitcoin? But the more interesting question may be, how does digital value move through the modern financial system? Digital assets are still early, still evolving, and still surrounded by debate. But they introduce an idea that did not previously exist in finance. Value that moves natively through digital networks. Whether or not digital assets become a dominant financial system remains to be seen. But the infrastructure being built around them custody, exchanges, payment rails, and regulatory frameworks is clearly expanding. And understanding that infrastructure is part of understanding how the digital economy may evolve. A framework for the next decade. When I look ahead 10 years, I don't see a world where traditional finance disappears. Banks will still exist. Governments will still issue currency. Businesses will still operate in physical economies. But layered on top of that system will be an increasingly powerful digital infrastructure, artificial intelligence expanding compute demand, cloud systems running global enterprise operations, financial platforms connecting individuals to markets, and digital asset network experimenting with new forms of settlement and ownership. For investors, the goal may not be predicting the exact outcome of every technology. The goal may simply be positioning capital around the infrastructure that enables a future economy to function. Closing thought. Throughout history, progress has always followed infrastructure. First came transportation networks, then electrical systems. Later, the internet connected the world digitally. Now we are watching the next layer take form, understanding that infrastructure may be one of the most valuable investments we can make, not just with capital, but with knowledge. Because before allocating capital to the future, it helps to understand the system that will shape it. And that system is being built right now